Welcome back to the D1Softball Podcast, part of the Learfield Family and Varsity Network. I'm your host, Jenna Becerra, and I am back with guest co-host Rhiannon Potkey after another chaotic weekend of college softball. And she is a senior writer on staff, one of our fantastic staff members. I am so excited to have you, Rhiannon. Thank you for joining this week.
I am very excited to be here. Yes, you are right. In the fun-filled weekend, I feel like I have a hangover on Mondays these days because it's like a fire hose. You know, you have like 700 games, and then all of a sudden you're just like, wait, what do I do? It's Monday. There's nothing to do. But then I like crash about 6 o'clock at night. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. There's so much to talk about, and love the show, and I love all you do. So I'm excited. I love being the co-host. So thanks for having me.
Yes, well, right back at you. And, you've been covering this sport and other sports too, but this sport for a long time. Maybe can you give some background on all that you do with D1?
Yeah, I've been covering softball and college softball and I'm showing my age, 25 years about, maybe a little bit more, sadly, that long. But honestly, like that just shows how much I love it because I keep coming back every single year. I've covered it. I used to live on the West Coast, kind of close to where you were from too, Jenna. And I even think I covered you in college. I think I wrote a few articles.
Yeah.
Back in the day when you were at Stanford. I think I even covered you in high school. This is getting too personal here. Just playing. Yeah. So I covered it. I've covered every conference, Pac-12 I started in a little bit, and then made my way to the SEC now, living in Tennessee, and have covered that for about 10 years now in terms of being in this area covering it. So,
yeah.
But it's been so fun to see, how much the game's evolved and how much more attention it's getting now. So, and I've been with D1 from the beginning. I think I was the first official employee technically on the staff. So, and love what the site is. So keep doing it, and just excited to kick off now. I think it's year 6. So we launched during COVID, which wasn't probably the best season to launch, but believe me, we've made up for that lost time in the last 5 years. They've been tremendous.
Oh, 100%. Largely thanks to people like you being on the staff. And yes, shout out to the 805. If you know, I've brought it up on the show before, but shout out to the 805 for both of us. And
just go back for a visit, Jenna, the 805, and the weather was much better. Much better.
I can't complain being in the Bay Area that much, but it's still like gorgeous going home.
I miss those sunsets, but I do like the Smokies as well. So I get the best. I can go visit. That's nice.
Exactly. Best of both worlds. But also you founded and started up Goods for Greatness too. And I think that's awesome and speaks to the growth at the youth sports level. So tell people a little bit about that too before we jump in.
Oh, you're so nice to bring that up. Yeah, that is literally my pride and joy and my life's mission. It's a nonprofit that provides sports equipment to low-income kids and pays their playing fees because youth sports has gotten ridiculously expensive and too commercialized. So we need to make sure that every child has access to it. I'm a big believer in that, and it is my mission in life to make sure that every kid does not get priced out of sports. So raise money to try to do that and get equipment, buy them equipment, and been doing that for about 6 or 7 years, and will do it until I can no longer do it anymore. Like I said, it's just my true passion in life, and help a lot of softball players. So it's been fun to see, and some have actually, are now in college playing. So it's been pretty cool to see, going from when they didn't think they would be able to even play because their parents couldn't afford it to now they're, on a great team and having a great time. So that's the true reward. I love just seeing kids enjoy the game, and they all should get to experience it. I don't think income should dictate whether you get to experience sports.
Absolutely. And again, you do that across multiple sports. Softball's got the most special place in our heart, obviously, over here at D1. And some of the college programs have even contributed as well to Goods for Greatness. So shameless plug, honestly, from my side for you, for people to go check that out because it's great.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Anyone that wants to donate anything, and especially money, you can feel free to call me or find out, because believe me, I'm always trying to beg, plead for some financial stuff. And you're right. The softball programs have been tremendous. I do all sports, but softball has been the most generous of all of them. And it doesn't surprise me at all knowing the people we have in the sport.
That's awesome. Love to hear it. And just love having you chat college softball with me here today. So before we jump in, a reminder for everyone too, if you're on the go and you want to stay connected to live college sports anywhere in the country, download the free Varsity Network app available on Apple and Android. With new features this season, it's easier than ever to listen live and keep up with your favorite teams and podcasts. So don't miss a moment. Get the Varsity Network app now. And I say this, I have it. I really do listen in. I've even called games on it before. It's really helpful when, as you know, Rhiannon, we're bouncing all over the place trying to watch as much and listen to as much softball as possible. So
I have it as well. I have it for all the sports because I'm every season doing the football, basketball, softball, and I listen to it in the car when I'm driving. I listen to it when I'm riding my bike, to be honest. I plug it in. So it's a great app. I recommend it. And this was even before I knew that it would be part of this.
Right.
I had literally no knowledge that you were going to read that ad read.
Yeah, see, authentic right there. That's the real stuff.
Real stuff.
Awesome. Well, so for today's lineup, we're going to talk through the new top 25 rankings, always a hot topic. We'll give some thoughts on week 2, and then we'll head into our interview this week with Erin Nuwer from Tennessee. Super excited about it. And then we have our plays of the week and our win and whiff of the week. All right, Rhiannon, you ready?
I am ready.
Let's start with the top 25. To me, the rankings from week to week, especially this early in the season, it's so chaotic. It's the most movement that we're ever going to see, right? Because it's so early on in the season. So every time we do this, I always try to keep that in mind. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I'm a big, I understand the reason for preseason rankings because it does generate discussion, but it's also based on never seeing anyone do anything in the transfer portal era.
Right.
So it's going to be like, oh, it's an upset. I'm like, well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe they just weren't good and we didn't know until we saw them play. So
Right.
yeah, I kind of take it with a grain of salt for at least the first month of the season. I mean, I contribute to it. Obviously I have to rank, but I really hate doing it because I just know, I don't really know how this team's going to be. I think they're going to be good. Let's just put them here. So,
right.
I think once we get a month in, it settles down, and then just the sheer amount of games that you have to track, it's just ridiculous. So I think baseball, softball are the hardest two to rank, for the first month or so of a season.
I could not agree more with everything that you just said. Yes, 100%. This week in particular, we do have a new number 1, and it is early. We've had 3 in 3 weeks, number 1 teams. It was Texas in the preseason rankings, then it was Texas Tech last week, and now it's Tennessee. So we'll hear from Erin Nuwer, of course, later on, but this is what it looks like this time. So Tennessee, just for background too, they're 10-0 in the first couple of weeks, 5-0 in Clearwater. They did win against Florida State, Nebraska, UCLA, a few ranked wins, as well as Florida Atlantic, who was ranked at the time last week, and then JMU. Texas Tech dropped from number 1 to number 3 after their first loss to Nebraska. So they basically swapped with the Lady Vols. And then a couple of new entries in the poll for the first time this season, number 22, Arizona State, and number 25, UCF. ASU has dealt with so many injuries the past few years, including their pitchers. So it feels like they're kind of bringing it together again. And then for UCF, the best showing they've ever had at the Clearwater tournament, the ESPN hosted event. And then Isabella Vega, the Big 12 pitcher of the week. And a 9-3 start for the team is the best since 2021. So to summarize, 11 SEC teams. And then in the ACC and the Big 12, there's 5 teams apiece, 4 from the Big 10. No mid-majors this week as FAU did drop out after a 1-4 showing in Clearwater. Whew. All right, that was a mouthful. So Rhiannon, when you first looked at this, obviously you and I both, we submit our own ballots, but then when we see what the results are, when they all come together, did anything in particular stand out?
Nothing too I mean, I voted UCF in the poll. I actually voted in last week too. They didn't get until this week. So I was glad to see that because our votes obviously get tallied. There's a lot of us that vote, so we tally them up.
Yep.
Tennessee far and away. I honestly was probably going to put Tennessee at 1 unless Texas Tech just blew out Nebraska and then they end up losing to Nebraska. So it made my decision a lot easier.
Yeah.
It was kind of, you could have nipped and tucked either one, but Tennessee is very deserving. They already had a lot of the metrics, that I thought would be deserving of that. Right. The LSU drop, I think, that LSU had probably, I would argue, the worst weekend in Clearwater, and I keep dropping, and they do have a redemption, ability here. But some people even were surprised they stayed in the poll, but they played ranked teams. So
right.
Arizona State, I think those last 5 spots or 4 spots, you can there could be multiple selections that you can make a case for.
Right.
So I was fine with Arizona State jumping in. I think I even kept Florida Atlantic, to be honest, in my poll because they played a tough schedule and I didn't really want to penalize them. But honestly, this is, I think every team in there is deserving right now, and others can make a case, and we'll see as they start to play out. I was thinking eventually, like Duke had a chance to move up and then kind of ended Clearwater a little bit. Like they were kind of up and down in Clearwater. So I thought they might make a jump up, but they kind of stayed pretty much the same or about. And I think just Arkansas, obviously their offense has been tremendous. I think we're finally going to see maybe Arkansas and Alabama play teams that challenge them more. And I'd be interested to see after this weekend kind of where they make either a jump or stay or go down, because they played some quality teams, but nothing that's really challenged them yet. So I'm interested.
Right.
So.
I'm with you on that, because, and even with the FAU piece, I always have respect for teams who aren't afraid to potentially get beat up at this time of year. When you play the tough competition, I just have respect for that. Like JMU had a tough time in Clearwater, for example, but head coach Lauren Laporte, when I talked to her after their game against Texas Tech, she said it. She was like, the first time that I've ever told my team we got better today after a loss. And yes, the final score was 5-0, but it was a 1-run ball game going into the fifth, right? So I think those types of things, like you take into account like what a quote unquote bad loss is versus like, okay, that was actually great experience under your belt against tough competition. All of those things to me come into play. And I think about that across the board.
For sure. And those teams too, I mean, I know it could be losses on your record. I don't think that's a loss. I think instead of going to play a bunch of teams where they could just beat up on them in some directional schools, they're better than, they know that they probably have to win their conference tournament anyways, or get or maybe this is a chance where they could put themselves in position for an at-large bid and get better. And if they lose, then okay, well, we're going to get better. And then we can still know that we probably still have to win our conference tournament to get in the tournament. So right. I don't really think there's any I think there's no technical losses unless you just get completely wiped out, which they didn't. And so I think both FAU and JMU, and, I think that playing Clearwater is just the best thing they can do. And I think it's just going to make them better down the line, and will only help their chances for the postseason, in my opinion, if they use it the right way.
Right. And FAU was in our overall top 25 rankings. They were number 1 in the mid-major top 25. They've dropped to number 5 in the mid-major poll. Omaha takes over the number 1 spot. For the context there, they got a couple Power 4 wins against Iowa State, and they're 9-0 on the season. But FAU still in the top 5 in the mid-major category, and I think only have opportunities to get better. Yeah, we do have some fan questions that we can answer to about the poll. This is always so interesting. Again, yes, especially this time of year. So we'll go through these. There's a few. The first one is, why is Texas number 2? It seems like this question could be angled in different ways, right? Like, well, why aren't they number 1? Well, why aren't they number 3? I don't know what the angle of the question is, but I think you touched on some of it where it's like, well, Tennessee, with what they've done, especially with the ranked wins and the tough competition, undefeated, the offense people weren't sure about, myself included. They lost some of their best hitters, and they couldn't have shown up any more than they did in Clearwater. So I feel like we touched on this a little bit, but maybe some people are wondering why Texas number 2 and not Texas Tech.
Yeah. Well, they both, honestly, they both have losses to Nebraska, but then Texas beat Nebraska. So therefore that was kind of my rationale. They had no chance, they beat them. So in Tech, so that you really it's splitting hairs in a sense.
Agreed.
And I was impressed with Texas's weekend. They obviously weren't in Clearwater, but honestly, this could flip back and forth for these. So, but that was my rationale. I was like, well, they both have this common loss, but then Texas avenged that loss. They had the opportunity to, and they did that. So, and then they came off a good weekend.
Right. Yeah. Some of the teams who, they might have lost to, it might have been a quote unquote upset. We've talked about, is that really an upset at times, but then they split with the team. So it's not like they dropped it twice the same way Texas did with Nebraska. They split that first weekend.
Yeah.
So the second question is, what will it take for Texas Tech to get back to that number 1 spot? It sounds silly, but in simple, keep winning, right? They don't necessarily have quite as many tough matchups on their schedule because not everyone wants to play them. Let's be honest, this season, but just keep doing what they're doing. That's all they can do, especially at this point in the season. At least that's my initial reaction. Yeah.
Just that they will Texas Tech, what they can control is just to win. And they have to hope that Tennessee loses a few times, right? That's just how it is. If Tennessee goes undefeated the whole season, I don't think they're going to drop for number 1 because they're in the SEC and that's just a great season. So I don't think all the Texas Tech can do to get back to number 1 is just to keep winning and hope Tennessee loses a few. So
Right.
that's literally all they can do. And,
Yeah.
they have to pick it, and they can't have a really bad loss, and they've got to beat the teams that are like ranked when they play them. So,
Right. And, Tech is going to Marienetter. So back-to-back solid tournaments in terms of just the pool of talent that's there. Tennessee's not, although they usually do. It's
they usually
actually
do.
mostly they do. This year they're not, but it'll be interesting. I think Tech's even playing, Team Japan will be there playing against a few of the teams. So some of those matchups are a little fun just from the international flavor side of things also.
I love that part. Yeah, I love when they have some, international teams drop in there. That's fun. So I do. They definitely have a chance this weekend to, I honestly, like I said, until Tennessee loses, I just don't think they're going to drop right away. But if Texas Tech just all of a sudden goes on this tremendous run and they throw, and with Nyjah Kennedy and all that, the talent they have, it's possible. But I think they're going to have to wait for Tennessee to suffer a loss. But this weekend will only help them to get more, if they can just, win that. So I think that'll only help them strengthen their case.
Yeah. And they could move up to number 2 if Texas drops one, that. Those top 3 have just been rotating this year for the most part. I mean, Oklahoma's right there as well in that 4 spot. But those 4, you could make cases at different spots really at this point.
For sure.
Yeah. So the next one is, what will it take for Nebraska to move higher? And, they had that big win, but what else do they need to do?
I think they just need to stack wins because they've had a few, they keep kind of alternating. And I think they will. I think there's a lot of new pieces there. And we'll discuss probably later their young, rookie pitcher who just seems to be growing by the day. Yeah. But I think they just have to keep stacking wins. And they've played the most one of the most challenging schedules. I mean, there's in terms of, especially with such a young pitcher in the circle, I've been very impressed with how she's handled that. Yep. The top 3 of the top 4 teams have had really challenging schedules, but they just have to keep winning and not be kind of as a roller coaster as they have been, and just kind of even out a little bit and stack together some wins. But again, their schedule has been really challenging, so it's not surprising to alternate wins and losses with that sort of. Then you're playing Texas and Tennessee and Texas Tech and all those teams.
Yeah. Back-to-back weekends beating the then number 1 team. Weekend 1, Texas. Week 2, Texas Tech. And they had 3 number 1 wins all time prior to this season. So that speaks to the development of the program, Jordy Fromm's presence in a general sense, but just where Rhonda Revelle has the team sort of from a cultural standpoint, I would think as well. Yeah.
She's done a tremendous job. Rhonda's one of the good people in the sport, and she's really not afraid to challenge them. And I think she knows too, they're not in, the SEC, they're in the Big Ten. This is the time where they can get some ranked wins because the Big Ten's not going to be full of ranked teams like the SEC will be. There'll be obviously ranked teams in there. You got UCLA, you got Oregon, you got, but they need to take advantage of this opportunity when they're playing these non-conference, and she wants to host. And the only way to host is to stack some of these, and show the committee that you're really trying to go out and play against the big time teams. And that's what she's doing. So it's been very impressive. And you're right with Jordy. She's changed the whole trajectory of this program. Just completely. It's fun when that happens, when she chooses to go home and elevate this program. Not that they've had a quality program a long time, but put it on a national stage like this and really kind of just turn it almost instantly into a contender. It's almost, I kind of equate it almost to the Indiana football effect, when the coach Signetti going there. It's kind of what Nebraska's been the last few years. Once Jordy got there, she's not necessarily she's in the playing aspect as opposed to the coach, but just that really hey, we're going to turn it back around real quick, and not quite as drastic of a turnaround, but just kind of that, hey, that quick spark that you just one piece in place.
Right. And they want to host twice, for supers if possible too. So that top 8 seed, they need to do this too. And
yes, correct.
They could, they could, they just have to your point, stack these, but that's why, they played Texas, Clearwater, they're going Nutter too. They have the opportunity.
Yes.
And the other one is, how many times has a team upset 2 different number 1 teams in back-to-back weekends to start the season? I don't know. That's something that when this came through, I was like, ooh, we should look into that because that is a pretty crazy stat.
Yeah, I have no idea. Plus, it depends on what poll, I guess, you're looking at, and
right.
Obviously, there's been we have more polls now than ever. And 5 years ago, there was probably just one poll. So maybe NFCA would know. I don't know because their poll's probably been around the longest. I can't think in our polls history. I can't remember it, but we might have to maybe I'll put I can maybe, as we get off, I can text someone and see if they have an answer, and then we can share it in the socials if we do get that answer. Because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, see, we're putting Rhiannon on the case, and it doesn't get better than that with coverage. So
I will get that. I will find out an answer somehow. I will find that out. That is my journalistic duty.
But that's why the 3 wins against the number 1 team all time for Nebraska stood out to me, was because I don't know how it compares to other programs, but within their program, yeah, I mean, wow, what an elevation. And just the opportunity to play number 1 in back-to-back weekends with a different number 1. Yep. Because how often does that happen? Like it would pretty much have to be either a tournament like this, but I don't know. I mean, it would have to be, if it has happened, maybe once or twice, and that maybe none. So I'll try to find out. Yeah. Great question. It is. See, this is why I do like getting the fan questions. They're tough sometimes, but really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So the top 25, I feel like, you could spend hours dissecting everything about it, but we've kind of hit on just like the highlights of some of the movement and what we might see moving forward. So with that, we've started already talking a little bit about this past weekend, but let's head into officially the week 2 recap. The Clearwater Invitational, Rhiannon, we've already touched on multiple times because the field was just so great. I mean, 5 teams from the SEC, 3 from the ACC, Big 12, and Big 10, and 2 mid-majors with, of course, Sunbelt and AAC, the American representation with JMU and FAU. 11 of the 16 teams going into that tournament were ranked as well at the time going into it. So just the vast majority of the matchups were always going to be great on paper, and being there, and then you obviously covering it remotely. I think we saw that come to fruition.
Yeah, every year. I mean, the ESPN made it for that very reason. And, they made sure that a lot of the coaches and teams would be willing to come down there and do it. And who wouldn't want to? That's a beautiful place to go and not a bad. So, yeah, it's a great field. And every year you just know it's going to be, I mean, God bless the coaches that put their teams in it, because it's just, back to back to back to back. There's no let up. You don't get any chance to breathe. But it's good. I mean, that's what they want. And it's fun. It's fun for the viewers too. I love it. I love that it's on TV. I love that it's on streaming and we can watch it all, because you don't have to get to do that either with some of these events that go on. You have to do all these subscriptions and like 1 cameras that you can't wait. Where did she go? Is she still in the picture? I don't see her. You're trying to figure out what's going on. So yeah, right. Great event.
Yes. Yeah. And it was really great because some of the D1 team was on site too, and we were able to get post-game interviews with all 16 teams. So recommend checking that out if you haven't yet on our Instagram at D1Softball, on Twitter /X also, and some things on YouTube shorts and things like that too. So I recommend taking a look at those as well, because it's always interesting in the heat of in the middle of a weekend like that, where are their heads at? Because most of the time we talk to players and then some coaches too. And one thing that came out of it too, and this has been cool, it's the second year that we have done this, which is an all tournament team for the Clearwater Invitational, specifically the ESPN hosted event, because yes, they do have the NFCA Leadoff Classic the weekend before, for example. But there are 15 total people who made it. Our MVP is who we're going to have on today as a guest. So that's super exciting, but 3 overall from Tennessee, because they essentially, I mean, obviously there isn't a bracket at this point in the season, but, going undefeated, you could count them as the quote unquote champs. 2 are from Texas Tech, Nebraska, and Georgia each, and then 10 total teams represented. And I thought it was cool seeing, 7 pitchers, but there was a few who are 2-ways as well, including both from Tech with Nija and Caitlin Terry, and then Jordy, of course, as well. So really this was difficult for us to come up with, but I just think cool to see this recognition. And so you can actually go to D1Softball.com and see some of the details of individual performances and things too. But watching those players, Rhiannon, and their teams, I mean, I was in person, you were doing it remotely. So on TV, you even got some of that sort of additional context that maybe I didn't see. So what were some things that stood out to you?
Well, obviously, Tennessee's performance, you hit on it a little bit. They just keep rolling. We knew their pitching was a strength, but their offense, I think, was really what stood out to me this weekend. Was kind of going to depend on some of those younger players and players that are taking on bigger roles this year and some transfers. And they came out and they really impressed me offensively. I mean, the pitching was what it was. I kind of expected that just because of that deep staff, but I think that's what I took away from Tennessee. I was impressed with Georgia's offense too. I don't think they didn't, I mean, nothing against her. They didn't play the schedule that some of the other teams did. They had, it wasn't quite as like intimidating of a schedule, but it was still impressive. And they still they just put up some crazy numbers. I think they set a tournament record with runs scored. Another thing that jumped out to me was UCLA needs pitching depth desperately. I think they can't rely just on Tinsley the whole way. I think they will develop. They have young, but they're going to need more depth than that. I think that kind of got to them. I think that was noticeable. And then I was very impressed with Alexis Jensen with Nebraska. We kind of hit on it earlier.
Yep.
She's their young rookie. In 2 weeks, I can already see like huge growth. And she's not afraid of any. I mean, she just gets in there and she bears down. She's been thrown to the fire like these last 2 weekends, and she's like fine with it. And she's given up some runs, but man, she's gritty and resilient and perfect complement to Jordy. So, and then on the bad side, LSU, I think they had probably a really rough performance. They got a lot of talent on that roster, and I know they've lost some players through the transfer portal. They didn't seize the moment, but the thing about that, they do have the rest of the SEC to try to make that up. But I was kind of disappointed in their play and just kind of, the outlook, and I'm sure they were too. And on TV, this is one thing I don't know if but Beth Torina's interview was very I know everyone's counting us out. You can tell she's kind of in a position now where I think she obviously needs to win, could be a make or break season for that staff, but she looked very, let's say there's going to be fire under that team for a while, I think, and she understands it. And she hears the noise out there. So they definitely need to make a turnaround as the season goes on. They have the ability to do it. So
yeah,
one of the things that jumped out to me right away, we talked about JMU and FAU jumping in and being really impressed with the fact that they wanted to do that. And UCF had a great weekend. Those were the highlights for me. And on TV, there was nothing. I can tell ESPN's really pushing the senior angle. That was on TV. I was really getting that vibe because they kept talking about the seniors. So I think they had their meeting and said, this is our theme of the year. Is class. So, which is great. They always have a theme. So I think the senior class theme was really good. And something that I heard quite often, which is true. It's a great senior class, especially pitching wise.
Loaded, and something that people are also looking forward to, the AUSL draft. And okay, what is that going to look like with how many talented seniors there are, especially pitchers, of course. We've talked about the big three with Nija, Jordy, and Carlin, but it goes beyond that too. Lindsey Grine, Taylor Tinsley, Maya Johnson, who we had on last week. There's so many really good arms. So that should be an interesting piece for sure. I agree with you. And just in general, you touched on it. With Alexis Jensen from Nebraska, we're going to talk with Erin Nuwer. And then at Texas Tech, Caitlin Terry too. And that is P2s who are really making a difference. That stood out to me from those big three that I just mentioned, those three schools. Without Alexis Jensen, Caitlin Terry, and Erin Nuwer, I don't know that any of those schools have the season and the fight that they've had so far. So to me, that was huge. And two of them are underclassmen. You said it. Jensen's a freshman, Newer's a sophomore, and then KT has been to the World Series and she's a junior. So she has some of that experience, but none of them are seniors, right? But they're right there being that 1-2 punch with their seniors. And we just can't stress enough how important that is, right? I mean, every year we see how critical it is to have that in the circle.
Yeah, and I think with Tennessee, you even put Sage Marvetko in there. She could be, she's right there with Erin Nuwer, in terms of just they feel comfortable going with either one. So that's where Tennessee really gets, they just have the depth. But yeah, you're right. Now, and so, it's, you could try to rely on one pitcher back in the day. That's just not possible anymore. Not even just because it's physically hard. It's just, you got to see different looks. It's just impossible their scouting's too good. The scouting reports, the hitting is too much, it's just too much to put on one player. So, and that's where I thought with UCLA was kind of their downfall this weekend, was just, they didn't have, and they, like I said, they're, that's young and they're new talent. And we have to give teams grace for development at this stage in the season, because we've seen that. But yeah, it is hugely important to have pretty much a 1A, 1B, or, almost right there. And then even more, I think you even almost have to have 4 to 5 nowadays.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree. At least down the stretch, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And a couple things you hit on that I'll piggyback on. Georgia can hit, right? I think they went back to back against Duke. Sarah Gordon got some recognition, for example, because she had quite a weekend, even defensively too, just solid plays to end the game with tags and things like that, which I love seeing both sides of the ball, of course. I think they're definitely one for us to keep an eye on. They did beat Nebraska, for example, this past weekend. And with UCLA, you're right about the pitching. And I think they know that. They know that they need arms. They had, a late addition as well from the transfer portal going into this season. But they still scored a lot of runs, too. They gave up a lot of runs. But, they put up 7 against Florida State. They gave up 11. That was the problem. Yeah. But, they can still hit. That's going to be there. So it really is, in the circle for the most part. And with Duke in particular, having Jess Oakland back, I know as a staff, we've talked about that. So great to see. She hit 455, 5 hits, 5 RBIs, and she was walked or hit by a pitch 7 times. But what a cool thing to see her back on the field. Yes. And a bright spot for that Duke team.
Yeah. I know some of the Duke fans were stepping away from the ledge because last week they're like, where is Jess Oakland? What is wrong with her? We're never going to do anything without her. We're going to be horrible. And then this week, you're like, okay, it's a little bit better. So it was first week reactions, Duke fans, take a breath.
Right.
Yeah, it's great to see her back. And obviously just a huge catalyst. I mean, Mercy Young, the job, I'm never going to I think people started freaking out a little bit last weekend, but that program is fine. They're going to be fine. They're good, but she definitely needed her back in the lineup, and they've got a lot of depth and talent in the circle is going to be always, I think this weekend they looked at times a lot better, and then there were some missteps and stuff, but I'm always confident in Duke that they're going to find a way to be in contention no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a bit of a family affair too, with Layla Lamar's on the team, right? Her daughter's back after transferring from Florida, but then her other daughter's at UCLA. So I actually saw the family, including Layla, watching the UCLA game at night after Duke's games were over. And Marissa was like, hey, can you take a family photo for us really quick? I'm like, absolutely. What a cool moment, right? To have those types of ties. Yeah. Doesn't get much better.
All right. Well, kind of, since I have to mention it, the Stewart sisters going against each other with Texas. Okay, now the parents better get that home run ball, but how horrible is that feeling as parents? What do you do? Do you cheer? Do you just stand there and look at nothing? I don't know, because could a double, maybe a double would have been fine, but
right,
that has got to be the toughest position. Okay, we're yay, no, wait, I don't know. Okay, let's just stand here.
What a cool thing, but also, what do you do? Golf clap? Find a happy medium? It's,
Yeah, it's conflicting. It's very, very conflicting, but what a cool moment, just to have that happen. But I can see that probably has happened hundreds of times in their lives, at home. They're so competitive.
Totally.
They're just so it'll be
done this in the backyard. Yeah.
They'll look back on it and be like, that was awesome when they're older. But at the time, I'm just these poor parents, they don't know how to react, but give them that ball though.
Yeah. They were both smiling too, which, how do you not?
That's good. Yeah. Perfect.
That's funny. Yeah. That was one of the coolest moments, I thought too. And it's, in the circle is so interesting, I think, across the board, because we have such heavy hitters really across, but we have that pitcher heavy senior class and a lot of young talent that's coming up too. So it's this balance, but another senior in the mix for me, I was keeping an eye on was Ruby Malin. See, can you tell I'm sleep deprived after already the second
had to travel, fly back and everything. Yeah. Poor Jenna.
Man. My flight was 8 hours delayed. I don't know what's going on. Ruby Malin from Oklahoma State. I think she had her moments, right? But it's just the consistency I think that they're going to need from her, because she's far and away the ace. There's a lot that really rests on her shoulders. So part of, the way that the Cowgirls are going to go is however Ruby goes, in my mind. But they did have some gritty wins where they stuck with it. The offense backed her up and backed up the entire staff. So I think, they just need to fight through some things, but they're also playing good competition early. So that's going to help them.
Yeah, I was impressed with Oklahoma State this last. I mean, and again, even last weekend going to Stanford playing, and that wasn't an easy. It's a good start.
Yeah,
but you're right. She's got some of the best stuff, but it's just there's one pitch or two pitches where across. It's she kind of. I don't know. I don't want to ever lose focus or anything, but just the consistency of because when she's on, man, she is on and she's unhittable. But there's just slip ups occasionally in the game, and moments you can't have. That's the difference between good and great, elite and great, it's just those minor moments. So, but it's early in the season, and I think Kenny, they're, the coach was even saying they're working on it, and they know. That's the thing I love about Kenny. He's very hey, he's going to tell you what is shoot straight. So,
Yep.
but yeah, she's got the stuff to put up against anyone. It's just the consistency aspect. But I was very impressed with their offense and just their grit and resiliency too. Another team that showed that this weekend.
Yeah, agreed. I think another team that had moments as well, but needs a little consistency is Texas A&M. And that's another head coach in Trisha Ford, who will be up front and straight up about that as well and what they need to do moving forward. And, they had some good wins too. They need some stability in the circle because they did give up a good amount of runs. They can hit. So, they made up for it at times, but at other times, it made things harder to dig yourself in a hole. So I'd say it's slightly different than Oklahoma State, but like somewhat similar in terms of maybe adding a little stability to things.
Yeah. I mean, we always knew kind of that pitching spot with, what they lost last year, that was going to be, where they had to figure out, and it's going to be more by committee this year than it was in years past. As we know, when you lose Emily Kennedy or something like that, that's hard to replace. I've been at times very impressed with Sydney Peters, like being healthy this year and pitching. But again, it's just like stacking that together and like consistently doing it. But like there's been flashes and moments with her that I've been like against Texas Tech when they played them. I was very impressed with the relief outing from her.
Yeah.
But and it's a work in progress. And as you said, Trisha will tell you that what we see them now, it'd be within 2 months. It could be a completely different. They could be more, everyone knows their roles, but they do need. I think that's was the question mark going in, and I think kind of remains the question mark.
Yeah. Yeah, and going up against some of the toughest competition, we keep saying this, it's going to help, right? And you mentioned earlier that's the case with Florida Atlantic. They faced in this weekend Nigel Kennedy, Carlin Pickens, and Jazzy Francic from Florida State. I mean, they went up against some of the best in the country, and it's only going to help them moving forward. But just for the context, like sure, 1-4 on the weekend, not ideal. But, to have that experience, you can't really replicate it.
No. I thought it was funny this is maybe you didn't hear because the mid-game interview they did with head coach Jordan Clark. They were playing Tennessee and she's like, well, we got to get ready because we're going to see Carlin. And the announcer's like, I don't know. Like Tennessee got this big lead. And then like, they're like, she comes in like the next inning. They're like, wow, she knew they were going to see Carlin. And I'm like, because like everyone's like, well, they don't need Carlin. They're like having a lead, but she did know. And I think she was excited about that. She's like, yeah, we want to see that. We want to, our batters to face that and to see what that looks like. So I really love their attitude through the whole thing. And again, they're not going to see that in conference play. Like nobody's going to do that. So the confidence they get from just being able to like stand in there and taking their cuts and, they weren't successful, maybe win-loss record, but they had a few good innings put together. They had some hits. They had some, they did just as well against Tennessee as even better than some other teams in terms of putting hits on the board and stuff. So, it wasn't like it was a really, as weird as it sounds, a really good weekend for them, even if you look at the record. And I think they would tell you that too. Like they're competitors and they want to win, but for, what they're trying to accomplish this season, I think that is exactly what they wanted to get out of that Invitational.
Yeah. And they put up 13 runs against JMU to end the weekend. So a little bit of momentum there to take from it. Also, after playing it against some of these top teams and, just the fact that they faced some of the top pitchers, like we just said, like all of those things, it seemed like, okay, well, they took that in to the end of the weekend, at least too. And, we talk about this too often because of the slate that always seems to be there in that Clearwater tournament. We've seen it in the past. I mean, UCLA struggled at Clearwater and then made a World Series run. Clemson struggled last year. They had a rough time at this tournament, and then they won the ACC tournament right at the end of the regular season and at the beginning of the postseason. So
Texas, remember Texas? They were horrible there, and they went to the World Series. So all the way to the end, like the last series.
Right.
We've seen it. I mean, it's a long season. I know it's a very cliche. It's a marathon on a sprint, but. And we've seen the other half. Like we've seen teams like come out like gangbusters here and then, like they didn't show up when it counted. So we just have to kind of pace ourselves. But we're good at overreacting. Everyone is. So that's part of it. But you're right. Like there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from this and that could benefit teams if they use it the right way and if they develop. And a lot of these coaches are good developmental coaches. So I really don't have too many worries for that. But I think they're, like I said, I've talked about like even when we talked about FAU, I think there's no like playing this Invitational, no matter what team you are, it's all positive if you can use it that way. And, even if it's depressing if you lose all your games, obviously, but we've seen you can use that and like still make a run down the stretch. So it's not going to be something that's going to be a weight on your shoulders or hold you back.
Yeah, and you made a good point that it could be the opposite. Tennessee's on fire right now, but they're not relying on that. They know that there's a long way to go from here. So just because it's a good start doesn't mean it's automatic for later. It goes both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and then taking a step away from Clearwater as well. I mean, we've talked about some offense, but I don't think we could talk about offense in general without talking about what OU did this weekend. Everyone is talking about the 34 runs that they put up against UT El Paso. And it's still not even a program record. 1 run shy.
Wow.
I think that's what actually speaks a lot to the program, that somehow this wasn't a program record to score that many runs. But that offense it's just consistently absurd.
Yeah. I think I made a very, very poor joke, in my head, and then I put it on social just about how the FAA considered reclosing the airspace in El Paso because they didn't know what all these things were coming out of the air. Like, what is going on? We've got to close. And I mean, unless you're I guess a newsy person and like me, maybe everyone's like, what are you talking about? But that was my first thought was oh no, these flying objects are just coming at us in droves. What are we doing? But yeah, it's pretty much par for the course for Oklahoma. That's just that's what we've come to expect from that offense. Maybe not at this extreme, but remember, a few years ago it was every game was 20 something to whatever. It was 5 innings. So it's ridiculously impressive. That's not my ever concern. This year it's going to be in the circle for them is my thing. That's where I'm looking. But if you're going to put up 30 something runs, that shouldn't be too much. Granted, it's not going to happen all the time in the SEC,
sure,
but it is ridiculously impressive. And it's just, I think every player in that lineup has a home run or a hit or some weird stat like that at this point. It's nuts. I'm excited to see them this weekend at the Mary Nutter and just kind of, get some better quality pitching. No offense to UTEP, but I think they would tell you that they don't have the arms of some of the other teams that OU is going to face. But I'm excited for that. But that offense is ridiculous. But it's like I said, at this point, I've kind of become numb to it. I'm just oh, okay. Yeah. I watched on scrolling through. Oh, it's 24-0. I'm yeah, okay. It's really weird how my brain just is it's normal. I don't see.
Because they've made it that way. Yeah. Totally.
It's it's not normal. And I have to be this is very take a step back and realize how ridiculously good this is. But they've made it to be okay, the expectations are ridiculously out of control with offense.
Right. And they had double-digit runs in every game on the weekend. So it wasn't even just that game. They had 5 run rolls. They outscored opponents 91-9 with a couple of shutouts too. Wow. That's insane. They have 38 home runs on the year as a team, 124 RBIs, 125 runs, which all but one is an RBI. They've earned that in 9 games. They're hitting 462 also, just on top of it. It's insane.
So they'll probably I wonder they probably have already hit more home runs than 197 teams last year hitting the whole season possibly. I'm just throwing a number out there. I just
seriously
exceeded the careers of almost every college player that'll ever play. It's it's wild. But we'll see. The thing is they probably haven't even reached their peak yet. So that's the scary part. So
100%. Whoops.
What are you doing, Jenna? You're throwing things around there.
I know. Drop my phone. I'm just so shook by Oklahoma.
Getting too excited with that.
But it's true. And then you look on the other side of the Red River too. Reese Atwood, who I've started to call Reese Batwood because for obvious reasons.
That's a good one.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate
Queen Reese is I don't know why it's Queen Reese, but yeah, Batwood. That's a really good one.
Thank you, Rhiannon. See, gosh, all right. But she already became the program's home run leader last weekend, RBI leader last year. She's added more since then with the long balls, including a grand slam. Reese Batwood doing Reese Batwood things.
I think I put it in my, what we learned from the week. I've just always been impressed. Her hitting it, she's one of the best in the country. If not, you could make an argument. Just the fact that she's a catcher doing this as someone who caught. I could bear just slapping. I was I'm too tired to go to the plate and even swing sometimes. Especially in that Texas heat and she mentally and physically, the strength that girl has is ridiculous to be doing that at that position. There's a lot of good hitting catchers, obviously, but it is tough. It's tough to do that. And it's just, only, like I said, physically draining, especially in those SEC, the heat of the SEC once they get into that part. So the fact she's done this for her career is amazing. And obviously she has good support around her, but she doesn't get pitched to like the greatest, as we even see. She'll pitch at balls way outside the strike zone when they're trying to intentionally walk her and still get like a double. So,
Right.
but she's phenomenal, and just her mental strength to me, and just how focused and intense she is, and just she's a complete student of the game.
Yeah.
So definitely the best hitter Texas has ever seen, and she's gonna blow all those records out of the water by the time she graduates this year. So very impressive.
And just her and Tegan Kavan as a battery, like they're roommates, they're best friends. They just are locked in together. I mean, that's how you win a national championship, I guess, right?
Yeah.
There it is.
And I have an affinity for those Texas farm girls too. And Reese is the Texas farm girl. So, it's always good.
There you go. And, upsets everywhere too. You touched on it earlier, Coastal Carolina getting the win over Arizona in Tucson. Not an easy place to play, saying that from experience. That's not easy to do. Charlotte over Virginia Tech, and then also Michigan State, who's receiving votes in our poll. And then Texas State, who's picked to win the Sun Belt this year, get the win over Clemson, just to name a few about what's going on in the country.
Yeah, I was, Michigan State's kind of been on a roller coaster. I was like, oh, they're great when then bam, bam, back-to-back losses.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those are all, and the ones you just named are obviously mid-major programs that we've kind of become accustomed to. Maybe not like being able to win a 3-game series per se or something all the time, but are able to, to legitimately win a few of those games. They have enough. They have over the years, we've seen that. Still very impressive, especially, like you said, doing it in Arizona is very tough. Arizona had a very interesting weekend. They, came back barely, I think, against Drake. And then, it was not as easy as a weekend as I think they would like. But I think that's just a young team and kind of figuring out their roles. But yeah, it's no surprise. There's certain mid-major programs where if you see the win, you're like, okay, that is, but it's not necessarily an upset in my mind in the strictest sense, because they have the ability to do that. But it's still a very impressive thing when it's done.
Yes, that's very well said. Because you can't play the name game either way, or either direction. And they know that. Arizona knows it. Yeah. Well, in terms of, our weekly awards for D1 Softball, I'll list the winners, and then you all can check out on D1Softball.com what their accomplishments were this week, because it was absolutely crazy. So Player of the Week, Sarah Gordon from Georgia. She's also on the Clearwater Invitational All-Tournament team. Pitcher of the Week, we said it, Erin Nuwer, our guest today from Tennessee. She was the MVP at the tournament. And then Allison Oneacre from Penn State as well, who was the Freshman of the Week. And for our mid-major awards, Player of the Week, Elizabeth Martin from Lipscomb. Pitcher of the Week, Taylor Jones from Charlotte, who we just mentioned. And then Allie Brandstetter from St. Louis as well for Freshman of the Week. So lots of talent there to dive deeper into.
Those awards are always so tough. I look at it like when we go through them every Monday, I'm like, oh man, this is like, I could get 3 of you could get some of these awards. So, but very well earned. And it's fun. It's fun to give those, players some acknowledgement, because what they did this weekend was ridiculous. As you said, go to D1 Softball and find out exactly their stats, because they'll make your eyes kind of bug out a little bit.
100%. But lucky for us, we will get to talk to the Clearwater Invitational MVP. So why don't we just go ahead and do it? Let's welcome in our guest, Erin. We are thrilled to welcome in this week's guest, Tennessee pitcher, SEC and D1 Softball Pitcher of the Week, and D1 Softball Clearwater Invitational All-Tournament MVP, Erin Nuwer. Thank you for joining us from Knoxville. How are you doing right now?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, but I'm doing well. How are you?
We're good. We're just excited to have you, and it seems like Clearwater has been really good to you, to say the least, the past couple of weekends. You're leading the team, the staff, with 5 wins on the year already, a 5-0 record. You haven't allowed a run, only a couple of hits, 24 strikeouts and 20 innings pitched. You had your second career no-hitter in the season opener, first career save, and then, 3 runs at the ESPN Clearwater Invite this past week. So just in case people needed to catch up, that's where you're at right now. So I would just ask you, what is clicking for you?
I think, honestly, our team as a whole is clicking really well. You've seen our offense this past weekend. I think everything's really just coming together. And I think also having a year underneath my belt, kind of just getting freshman year out of the way, has helped me not only athletically, but personally.
Yeah, Erin, Karen Weekly, the head coach at Tennessee, when I talked to her in the fall for the fall reports and everything. She was saying that, part of what you had a great fall, and she thinks it was basically just being more yourself and not convincing yourself you had to be something else. Can you kind of explain what she meant by that and kind of how you processed like that and kind of turned that around this season to just be more of yourself in a sense?
Yeah, I think freshman year, it's hard for anybody, just moving away, adjusting to like this whole new schedule. And I don't know, I think I just kind of gave myself really unrealistic expectations. And I was just so nervous of like doing something wrong or giving up a home run. And I didn't like allow myself to just enjoy the moment. And this year I was like, I'm tired of playing like this. And I'm kind of just like, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And I also know like I have a huge, really good bullpen that's also there to back me up if anything does happen. So kind of just controlling the things that I control. We've talked about that as a team a lot this year, just staying in the moment and stop letting like things get way bigger than they are, and staying where your feet are especially. And I think Karen has helped me a lot with that, but Megan too. And I just think it's allowed me to grow not only as an athlete, but as a person for sure.
And you mentioned the bullpen. And you and Carlin Pickens have, of course, been a dynamic duo so far, but just what have the vibes been like in the bullpen with her and the rest of the staff?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot, how close we are and how, I mean, we mainly just joke with one another. Sometimes we don't even talk about softball ever. And I just think it's great to learn from them, not only like from a softball aspect, but just from a personality aspect. And obviously Carlin has a lot of experience just being at this level, and I can pick her brain about anything softball related or anything not softball related. And same with the other pitchers. I mean, the freshmen are really open-minded and all very sweet girls, and I think we are all really good friends. And like knowing that like there's obviously some competition, but that we're really good friends at the end of the day, I think helps a lot.
Erin, you come from New York, which isn't exactly known as a hotbed, I would say, of New York softball talent. I mean, obviously, they produce a share of good players, but not somewhere that you usually hear from California or Florida. How did you kind of get into softball, and kind of what do you think you did in your development that enabled you to get to this level and be on the stage you're at right now?
I mean, I have just the most amazing support system. My parents, they invested a lot into me, and my sister was really, really smart, always was into the books and stuff like that. And I think they just took a big leap of faith. I mean, I played for Georgia Impact for, I want to say 4 years. And I mean, it's a commitment. My mom's a teacher. My dad works full time. And that never really, I didn't even know how hard it was until I got to school, I would say. And just the money they invested, the time, the taking off of work, and like, they never made it seem like it was an inconvenience or it was a problem. And I also think, playing in the South with Georgia Impact, I was around a great group of girls too, and kind of just seeing their drive and how much different it was playing for a team that good really helped me, and it kind of made me realize like this dream could become a reality. I just want to like say my parents just being so amazing and how much they helped me grow into the person that I was.
And I like that you are shining a light on that development piece and how you went out of state to play travel ball, and you were a PGF national champion. And that is not uncommon to see people do that, to try to play at the highest level possible. Do you feel like that really prepared you for now? Okay, you're playing collegiately in the South away from home and at a very high level.
Yeah. I think when I would play in travel ball, I mean, I would face big SEC commits or just big schools in general. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm going to school and I'm going to play these exact same girls. So I think that definitely helped me kind of just get to this level, because like we talk about all the time, like iron sharpens iron. And when you're facing the best competition, sometimes it's going to go bad, sometimes it's going to go great. And it's only going to make you a better player at the end of the day.
Erin, you referenced Megan, pitching coach Megan Rhodes Smith, who's the mastermind behind that staff. Can you talk a little bit about what she does as a coach that is so, impactful? Because obviously ever since she's been there, there's just been, good pitcher after good pitcher. I know she's really goes deep into the mental game and stuff, but what makes her such a great pitching coach, and what has she done to help you develop?
Yeah, I mean, you just touched on it. I would say like the mental game for sure. I mean, we do visualization, we journal, and although like we pitch a ton, every day, but we also I can go up to her and be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. And I'm not seeing myself throw this pitch well. And she'll talk us through meditation, visualization. And it was really hard for me freshman year because I'm like, what is this? I've never visualized myself throwing a pitch. And I don't know. I feel like it's helped a ton. And she's always there for little cues. She's not going to change my whole entire pitch. She's like, maybe just focus on your eyes for this one, or maybe focus on your shoulders, or focus on your core. And she gives very little tips that help a ton. And I also feel like she knows exactly what to say. She'll call timeout during the middle of the inning. I'm like, am I leaning back on this drop ball? And she's like, yeah, I was just going to come out and tell you that. And I don't know. I just literally feel like she's a mind reader sometimes because she's great.
Yeah, that's always impressive, certainly. And I know that you and the pitchers talk a lot and joke around with each other, like you said. What about the relationship with your catchers as well?
Yeah. So we have Elsa, freshman, and then Jackie and Emma. And honestly, they are the most selfless people. I mean, they come in the bullpen, they take a beating, and then they go out and practice for 2 more hours. And I just think, they're all so sweet. I can go out to hang out with them for coffee, or I could do whatever, and I can just talk to them about softball, not about softball. And I think building that relationship outside of softball and knowing them on a little bit of a deeper level really makes me trust them behind the plate and with knowing what I need in certain moments. And Elsa's been killing it. She's obviously only a freshman, but I feel like you would never tell that she's a freshman. She's just been killing it. I'm super proud of her. And then Jackie and Emma, they are both great. And whenever that they get behind the plate, I think that they just maximize their opportunity wherever they are on the field. And I think they're all very selfless people.
Erin, we can see you as a softball player, obviously a student at Tennessee, but maybe what's something unique or interesting about yourself beyond the field, or things that in your past that maybe we don't know that you can share with us that are interesting?
I love to ski. Being from Buffalo, obviously there's a ton of snow. And I stopped skiing, I want to say sophomore year of high school, because I was like, I can't get hurt, softball, this and this and that. And then my freshman year over winter, my friends are like, we're all going skiing, you're coming. And I was like, okay, I have to go, because I always loved it growing up. And I'm going to say I'm amazing at it. I still fall, but it's a blast. And I think it's one of the most peaceful things, just putting your helmet on, skiing down the hill in dead silence, and just being able to look at the snow on the trees, or be with your thoughts. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Have you been following the Winter Olympics then? You judging all the downhill skiers and freestyle skiers?
Yeah, they're way better than I could ever be. But my parents are really into it, so they keep me updated with it. But yeah, it's cool.
And it sounds like you've been athletic your whole life and into sports your whole life too. What made you ultimately choose softball to pursue at this higher level?
Honestly, I think I was just the best at it. I played volleyball for a little bit. I played it my senior year just for fun, and I don't know, just hitting the ball as hard as you can. It's just so much fun. But yeah, softball, I don't know. My sister played softball growing up. Obviously she decided she was really smart, so she wanted to do that. But I remember I would always sit on the bucket during their games and just eat sunflower seeds or whatever snacks I could find. And I don't know, it just made me find a big love for the game. And then when I eventually was able to play it, I remember I was just always so competitive with it. And then when I played volleyball, I was more la la la, this is so fun. But yeah, softball has always been I just have had such a joy playing it.
Erin, being now that you guys number one ranked in every poll and kind of have this hype come, how do you guys stay level and not, get ahead of yourself with it being only 10 games into the season and a long way to go? What does Karen talk to you about, or what have you guys talked amongst yourself about to stay level headed and to kind of stay focused?
Yeah, I think the rankings are awesome, but really they don't mean anything at the end of the day. It's just a number. And I think kind of just knowing like we haven't even reached our peak. And these girls are just, I don't know, we're all just such great people. And I feel like nobody's going to let that affect like or get to their head, because it's like we just want to get better. And we know that we can still have so much more room to grow and get better on and off the field. And I think we kind of talked about it, and it's like, yeah, this number, it's great because we worked so hard, but at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. We're not near our end goal, and we still have a lot of room to grow.
You mentioned the offense earlier, and I think you said something to the effect of like, yeah, they've performed really well, which is an understatement. And really, this is a team that went to the World Series last year, of course, but several of your biggest hitters from a year ago didn't return this year. It seems like the team has made a statement. So what's it like knowing that they have your back too?
Yeah, just pitching behind any lead is such a confidence booster. And I feel like obviously we're a younger team, but I feel like we just play very free. And I feel like you guys can see it in like when we're in our games, but we just celebrate the littlest things. And like, we're just so happy if you're on the field, if you're off the field, like we just celebrate one another's successes so much. And I think that's really important. And I think it allows so much team chemistry, because even if you don't do well, you have however many girls that are going to back you up no matter what. Or even if I give up a home run or I give up a bunch of runs, like you have that run support. And either way, like, your teammate's going to be there for you and back you up. And I think that's pretty awesome.
Erin, you mentioned Buffalo area. You have to let us know, are you a Buffalo Bills fan? This is the pressing question I have to ask you today.
Yes, I am a big Bills fan.
Have you crashed any tables? Any table crashing?
I personally haven't. No. I think that's kind of a lot, but I have seen it happen for sure. And I'm like, geez, these people are crazy. But yeah, I'm a Bills fan. Love the Bills, even though they let me down almost every year. But you know what? It's okay.
Bills Mafia,
Yeah,
But the Lady Vols, they're not letting you down. You guys are not letting anyone down so far this season. And I have a pressing question, a two-part question for you too. I want to know which uniforms are your favorite, because you guys busted out the Summit Blues to finish the weekend undefeated in Clearwater. I saw them in person. They're awesome. But which one is your favorite?
Okay, I kind of have an underrated opinion. I love our gray uniforms, and I love the way that they fit. I feel like they just make us look so long, and I love the grays. And then I would say the blues if we're wearing white socks with them. But the orange socks, I feel like that's too much color that's going into it. But yeah, the grays are my favorite. And I think because we never wear them. Well, we do wear them, but like not that much. And I think like every single time I wear them, I'm like, oh yes, I haven't worn this uniform in forever. So it makes me so excited. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the change up, right? Mixing that in, you know what that's about. The second part to my question is, and I asked one of your teammates this recently, with how many times, especially at home, you hear Rocky Top play, does it ever get old?
Not at softball. I would say at football games, totally. It gets annoying. But at softball games, it honestly hypes me up, and it hypes the fans up, which makes it so much better. When you're standing there from the sidelines and you hear it, it's like, it's not the same. But when you're in the moment, it's like, this is awesome.
Legit. Yeah. Yeah, it gets in your head. Definitely does get in your head, that little, that. And I think, can you let us, in terms of, you were saying, at home too with the fans, you guys have, great fan support. How much are you looking forward to eventually getting back home and playing in front of those fans? And what is it like if people haven't been to Sherry Parker Lee Stadium, kind of the intensity and everything. What is it like to play in front of that home crowd?
I mean, yeah, it's intense. We're a really loud team, or a really loud crowd, and we have like some locals that come to everything. They just came to Clearwater 2 weeks ago, and they have like little cheers for every single person on the team. And I feel like by the end of the season, the whole entire crowd knows them. So just hearing how excited the fans get, no matter you're winning or losing, it's just always going to bring such amazing energy to the people who are actually on the field, knowing that your fans care so much and are just like wanting to support you no matter what. I think it's just an amazing environment to be around.
Last one for me is, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but I know that this team and you individually have big goals for this year. So what does that look like for you and then for the group for the SEC slate, and then of course for the postseason this year?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to win a championship, seriously? But I think a lot of stuff that we talk about all the time is staying where your feet are and staying in the present. And you can't win a national championship if you're going to look 40 games ahead of schedule. So even when we have doubleheaders, we talk like very heavily on focusing on that first game, no matter who you're playing. And then we'll watch the film and then we'll focus on the next game. But until that first game's over, or until we play our next game on, I don't know what it is, Friday, whatever's after that, it doesn't matter. Playing with your team and being present in that moment is the most important thing for us right now.
Awesome. Well, that's all I had for you. I'm mostly just excited to watch you and the Lady Vols continue to compete. Rhiannon, anything else before we let Erin go?
No, I think we've covered it all. I'm just curious, is there going to be maybe 2 or 3 months before they give up an earned run? Is that going to be have you guys put any bets on it over under here?
No, we don't put any bets on it. Like I said, we got to stay in the moment, focus one game at a time.
Yeah. Well, whoever does, it's going to be a sad day for, that one run, that poor one run.
Well, thank you again, Erin. We really appreciate you taking the time, especially during, a really busy preseason this year. And like I said, can't wait to see everything that you and the team do the rest of the season.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for having me.
Rhiannon, I know that you being in the area, you get to chat with Tennessee in general quite a bit, whether it's Karen Weekly or the players like Erin. So I loved having you on in particular, but just a cool way to get some insight, on the now #1 team.
Yeah, and Erin's one that we're starting to get to talk to more. It's always fun there. Tennessee is definitely very with weekly press conferences and everything. You get to know the players very well. They're very well spoken, but it was fun to learn a little. There's some stuff I learned in there that I didn't know about, which was fun. And it's always good to have, someone like that on to kind of explain the process behind the scenes that we don't see. We see the numbers, but the work that goes into it. I'm lucky enough here to kind of get that. And it's fun to kind of get up close view, but there's even some stuff that she revealed that I had no idea about, which is very exciting.
See, I didn't know that was possible for there to be anything that you didn't know about, Rhiannon, to be honest. So
I wish that was the case. It would make writing and reporting so much easier, but I do have to do some of that work, so.
Fair enough. And, watching is also one of our favorite things, obviously, to see all the outstanding plays. This is also very hard for us to figure out each week, but we do have the plays of the week. You first, Rhiannon. What do you got?
All right. Well, as you know, it was tough. I had I'm a sucker for outfield play. And there was some tremendous outfield plays this weekend. And so I was going back and forth between 5 or 6 of them, but finally settled on Georgia's Jaden Shorty Goodwin. Perfect throw, perfect tag to catch her in a clutch situation to secure the win for the Bulldogs in Clearwater. Just love throws like that just nail runners at the plate, and a great tag placed on it. Be still my heart with those 2 positions. So that's kind of why I went. It was more sentimental lean and just a great play. But again, there was 5 or 6 that I could have gone with, but I felt like that one really stood out, and it was kind of set the tone. It was a Thursday at Clearwater, kind of one of the first games, and really just stuck with me the whole weekend.
1-1 pitch from Ada Little. Cusack, left side, under the glove of Lindemuth, and they're going to send the runner. Here's the throw. They got her! Jaden Goodwin with a laser from left. What a finish.
There's a couple underrated things I think about that play too. The laser from left that nailed it. You said that too. But as a former infielder, something that I appreciate, it gets under Lindemuth's glove going out to the outfield, and Goodwin just has her back, right? She's the last line of defense as an outfielder. That's what they do. So I love to see that. And then we talked about earlier, of course, the tag from Sarah Gordon, but the ball spike, I feel like that's the catcher equivalent of like a bat flip. Yeah. But she earned it. Time and place, we say, right? That felt like it was right.
Oh. Like I said, I was just like getting pumped up watching that again. I'm like, yeah, this is all, just the whole sequence, and then the whole team celebrating, and against Nebraska, big game. Everything was, that was like her approach to pick up the ball in stride, throwing it home, not missing a beat, just a laser. Just can't get much better than that. It's like a teach tape type stuff right there. And avoiding obstruction, thank God, because if that had been obstruction, I would. Again, it's been a little relaxed this year, but we still have yet to dig into. There'll be some that we argue about. But the fact that she positioned herself just right to avoid that controversy was perfect.
Gosh, you're bringing up my anxiety now that you bring up obstruction.
We haven't said, hey, we're going to get. We haven't it hasn't been an issue, so maybe let's just think that it's just going to be, a good season of non-obstruction.
Sure, we'll be optimistic. I like that.
Start off in Zen mode with obstruction.
Well, you had the defensive play, and surprising probably to a lot of listeners, I have another offensive one this week. I don't know what's become of me, but we talked about some of the family affairs across the board. Sibling rivalry taken to the next level. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, Rhiannon with the junior Katie Stewart from Texas, hitting the home run off her sister, the senior Danielle Stewart from Northern Illinois. The game was in Austin. They're both from Illinois. Let's just watch it.
K-Stu, a charge into this one. It's gone. Score one for Little Sis. K-Stu bids that one adieu. Her first home run of the year in front of the home crowd. Her fifth of the season.
Oh, man, you can't help. You see the smile on her face. I know she doesn't want to give that up.
You said it earlier, just so good. The first time the sisters played each other in their careers, too.
Yes. And look, that was a surprise to me that you picked that, because we try not to tell each other what we're picking. So I wouldn't have done like the whole spiel earlier. I would have saved it for you, but because we try to be we want our honest reactions on this pod, right? So we try to be very, If I was, her older, I'd just be like, I just wanted to give that to you so you could have your moment. I would be very magnanimous. Like I threw you a bunny so you could just,
Honestly, it deserves all the love, though. It deserves being brought up twice because it was such a cool moment. And, the head coach of Northern Illinois, Catherine Gleason, took a photo with both sisters, Yeah,
that was cool.
That was cool. And it was the first home run at home for Katie this season. It was in the first inning of the game. Like, just so many layers to it. But, this time, little sis came out on top.
Yeah, well, like I said, if I was the older sister, I'd just be like, it's almost like a league of their own. Did Dottie drop the ball? Like, I would be like, that's what I did for you. See? Like, in a few years, just be like, really, I could have struck you out, but I wanted you to have your moment. I would just, if it was a lie, I would just say that. Yeah.
Honestly, we should have another episode about that league of their own scene, because I have kind of strong thoughts.
Oh my God. I could honestly, anytime that movie, I could be like in the middle of a day and like I see that movie on and I'm just like, stop, everything's just done. I'm like, I'm watching, and it's on a lot. So I do not get much done sometimes when TNT or something plays that. So yeah.
It's so true. Always throw it on.
That's an off-season pod. We'll do an off-season pod just about that movie.
There you go. We could do a series. Let's be real.
Do it. I'm in.
Yes. All right. We'll put a pin in that and we'll revisit, because that would be awesome. But, so these plays of the week, they're all wins in our eyes, but we do have an official win and whiff of the week. The win of the week, not surprisingly from my view at these preseason tournaments, has to do with a couple of young girls looking up to some of their favorites. Two sisters have been looking forward to the Nebraska-Texas Tech game in Clearwater for months. It was a Christmas gift from their families. They had some awesome split jerseys, and they got to feature it on TV too. So let's take a look at that.
Let's look by the numbers here at the Invitational. 12 shutouts, 8 upsets. And you guys, these are the best teams in the country. 6 losses by top 10 teams, 75 home runs. How about that jersey?
Oh, you gotta love the split jersey ball, Kennedy. Claire and her sister Sadie. That was their Christmas presents from their mom and dad, Sarah and Matt. And then our crew, so somebody gave them some swag. Our crew was so good, we found out they are from my hometown of Syracuse, New York.
Ooh. Brilliant Christmas idea, though. How cool is that, the foresight? The ticket with the jersey, knowing for tonight's game. They've been waiting.
Yeah.
It's the end of December. That's pretty dang cool.
Mom Sarah played for the same coach as my high school coach, Kerry Bennett.
Love it.
He coached the softball team. My dad, Lenny, coached the basketball team.
What? Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
92 years young. He's watching at home today.
It's a small town. Girl dads that coach them, nothing better.
Very
cool.
Very cool.
More family stuff, and even like just the small world that is women's sports
Yeah.
and softball with the connection to Beth Mowens talking about it, that I thought was a whole nother layer.
That is, yeah, it's very cool. I think Jordy didn't invite them to the wedding, obviously, since she changed the name, but it's
Fair enough.
still very. But honestly, people are still getting used to that. So like the ball, I think you can call her either one at this point, and everyone gets the point. This is really cool, though.
Right.
And the parents are parents of the year for doing that and for getting that's an awesome present. If I would have been in heaven if my parents had done something like that for me. So that's really score points for that parent. That's a great Christmas gift.
So cool. And okay, you mentioned your OU joke about the FAA earlier. So I'll tell you my joke that I said to Jordy's face. I said, "You might be from now, but you're still ballin'." And I was proud of it. And she said, "That's a good one." And I have that on film.
Oh, man.
So I
You have evidence, right? It's on film?
It's on film. Yes.
Okay. So you're good, man. That is. It's like dad jokes here with us. I don't know.
Totally.
Like,
You know what? That's
it's
fine.
fine. I mean, we're that age now. You got to do it.
Oh, don't say that. No.
6'7", we got to do all that stuff, right? Look cool. We got to look cool.
I saw some fans watching. I think it was a little brother or a relative of one of the UCLA players when the score changed from 6 to 7. I think that was in that Florida State game for UCLA who started doing that. And I was like, oh, wow. It's really
the
awesome.
basketball games I've covered this year where that once the scoreboard goes to that, you would have thought the national championship had been won. That's all that mattered. Then the kids they might as well have just left the game after that because there's nothing left to it's okay, we still have the whole fourth quarter to play, guys. I don't care. We got 6-7. So
Oh, wow. That's the days we're living in now. But, there was a whiff this week, too, because technology has come so far, as we know, in the sport and in sports in general. But fans were frustrated that there was no video review at that Clearwater tournament this past weekend. Here's an example.
That's a fair ball. Good scoop by Valdez behind the dish. Jump up and get it. One down.
I think they're going to ask for help on this.
Take a look at what happens here. See if it's off the foot. Oh, it goes off her in the box. Yeah, so that needs to come back.
Come back, yeah.
Should probably show her the ball mark. You rarely see, we've seen some funky spins here, but you rarely see a ball that's hit behind you come into fair territory.
Unless it hits her.
Yeah.
The uncap can, which I think the public demands that we continue throughout the season.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
No, they're going to call her out.
There's no review. Oh, man. That's hard.
Just a tough example of a few instances where it would have been incredibly beneficial to have it.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially, ESPN's putting on this event. So that's where I kind of struggle with it. I know it's expensive to do that in some places, and sometimes it's just, different streaming service, whatever, like it's not always feasible. But with this instance, when you're supposed to this is kind of their practice for the World Series in a way too, like you would hope. And I think that might be something they discuss. I haven't talked to people to find out the reasons from the ESPN side. So I want to be fair to all parties, doing my journalistic integrity here. But you would hope that, with that kind of investment they have in that event, that maybe that will be something that they will, especially after this year's, there's like 4 or 5 examples.
Yeah.
But also kudos to Rhonda and that they didn't, make a huge, there was other outbursts that were a little bit worse than that.
Right.
So, I think you just got to before we even had technology, we come of age where there was nothing on TV even. So I think I'm a little bit less lenient because of that. We're so spoiled.
Yeah.
That, everything is so now we just get so oh my God, you don't have 4D and this for everything.
Right.
That I kind of am hey, it's life happens. Sometimes you don't have that technology. Sometimes it even breaks. So I would hope they would eventually consider that, but it doesn't outrage me as much as I think it outrages other people.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little bit, maybe just like I said, I came up at the age where we had VCRs and everything where you had to camcorders. There was no streaming.
Totally.
So I'm just glad we have it on TV and so.
Right. I think both things are true, right? And two things can be true at once. The thing is at its core, everyone wants to get the call right. I don't think this whiff is on the umpires by any stretch. It's the coaches, the fans, the players, and the umpires all want to get the call right. So yes, video review gives them the chance to take another look. They get more angles to try to accomplish that. I have had coaches tell me, to your point, that sometimes it gives them the ability to take their emotion out of it a little bit because they ask, it's looked at, the call is made, they can move on. We did see Beth Serena got tossed, right? Because there was one of those calls that was hard to tell live and there was no review to do anything about it. So sometimes it can minimize those types of situations. But our colleague, Justin McLeod, who was also on site at Clearwater, was told that the technical capabilities were not the same at all the fields. Because if you haven't been in person, there are 2 separate areas, 2 separate sets of fields where the games are being played. There's fields 8 and 9, where the setup is for some of the primetime games with, Beth, Michelle, and Jessica. But then there's also fields, 1 through 4, where some of the other games are happening and people rotate between them. So what we were told, what he was told, is that because they couldn't set it up consistently across all of them, it was just consistently not done, rather than have that advantage on some fields and not the others, where it could potentially change the outcome of games. So I would say at least the consistency was taken into account if that's true.
Yeah. And that is what I assumed. And having been there, seeing the setup and stuff, it would be hard because it's not like it's, when you're in one stadium and you have all the cameras and everything, that's different, like in a home stadium in SEC or something.
Right.
Because a lot of these tournaments, even at Mary Nutter, there's not, it's you're in a box and you have a, webcam set up and stuff.
Right.
So, and that is in fairness, if you're going to have a whole event, to only allow teams that play on certain fields to benefit from that, I don't think that's fair either.
Right.
So I can see you either do you're all or none. And I think all the coaches probably respect that more than being okay, only if you're this team that gets on this field, then you get that. That's not fair to me either. So That's kind of what I assumed. And I'm glad Justin asked about it. I'm glad you asked about it. But I think just like I said, people just get they don't consider all the variables sometimes. And so it's good to get this out there to let people know it's, so like I said, sometimes you just can't, it's expensive to do some of this stuff at all these fields. And ESPN just uses it for one weekend. Yeah. So are you going to invest millions of dollars for one weekend? So if Clearwater eventually wants to, maybe, but I think it's just hey, that just doesn't make much sense to me, to be honest, either. Let's spend that somewhere else that's a little bit more advantageous. If you want to get a few more games later in the season, it's for just a preseason tournament. So
sure,
I'm willing to take the trade-off.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's sometimes what it is, to your point. Yeah. I can see on paper how it's we have umpire cams on their hats, but we don't have review, right? So again, both things are true. It's let's do it. But I'm guarantee it's something that ESPN has already looked into and will continue to.
I know for a fact, they bring anything they possibly can within reason to these events. So anything that someone mentions, they've considered. Like, let's just be real. That's like they're so deep in the weeds there, and they're so do anything to promote the sport in a good way.
Yeah.
So if they can't get it done, or if there's a reason, like, I'm fine with it because they probably tried.
Right. I mean, 3,200 games across their networks this season.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot that they're putting into it.
5 calls that we don't get reviewed. Like, the world's not going to end.
Right.
We're good.
Right. Yeah. So that's technical whiff, but, you know, plenty of positives as well, of course, from the weekend. And in terms of what is next, you know, where we're going to be for, I can't believe it, already week 3. It's hard to say that, but so I'm supposed to call the Arizona, Texas games at Stanford Thursday, Friday. That's pending, you know, some of the stadium stuff that they have.
That was going to be my whiff of the week is permits. Where are the permits, Stanford? That's a whiff and a half. I mean, my gosh, not in the team or the players, but everything else. Like, that's something that probably should be checked like months ago. Like, do we have a permit?
Yes.
So, sorry, tangent.
Right. I mean, fair for everyone wants that fixed, right? So yeah absolutely.
Hopefully so fingers crossed, Jenna, you are calling that game.
Let's hope.
Yes.
So. But then I will be at Mary Nutter on Saturday, Sunday, either way. And so Rhiannon, I mean, where are you going to be, but also just what are you going to have your eye on this week?
Yeah, well, because we have so much going on, I'm going to be holed up in the Potkey household. I will be here. I will be watching like 7 screens like I was last weekend, the weekend before. I will be on the road the next, you know, eventually go out to games live. I usually wait till week 3 or so because you guys are usually at these events and we don't need 7 people at the same event. So I will be tracking Mary Nutter and running stories about it that you're there because you're doing completely different things than I do. So that's great. We complement each other. And then I will also be watching, you know, Alabama down in Tallahassee. I'll be watching all the other events going on, Oklahoma, you know, everything that's even some of the mid-majors and everything, anything that's going on that is streaming. And I got to somehow figure out how to get the Flow Softball. I don't want to, but I'm going to figure out how to get that too. So I'll just be watching everything. But yeah, I will be grounded at home from Thursday through Sunday night again, trying to crank out 5 or 6 stories a day.
Sounds about right. I mean,
yeah.
The best at it, you know, and our team as a whole. So Justin McLeod, he'll be his planned to be at UCF on Thursday, Stetson on Friday, South Florida Saturday at minimum. Wouldn't be surprised if you catch him a few more places.
Be like 17 other games before.
Totally, like
triple header. Like
that's just at minimum.
I'm like, hey, I've been asleep for 6 hours. What are you doing? I'm still up, and like I'm going to like this 2 a.m. game somewhere, and I'm like, there's, you know, it's like, all right, buddy, you do that. I'm gonna love him to death, but like, thank God, because I'm not staying up that late to do that. So he will be at like 17 games.
Totally.
I guarantee it. Yeah.
Easily. I mean, yes, exactly.
Yeah, yes.
And then Eric Lopez, he's calling every game of the UCF tournament with Alex Powers. They have Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio, and Charleston all in town. And Victor Anderson will be calling games remotely with Flow Softball for Mary Nutter, specifically the Des Moines field. So keep an eye on those games.
He's in Des Moines.
Yeah, I know. Right?
I think it is. You're just on the Des Moines field, buddy.
Yeah, I think they like divide and conquer. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, we got everything covered then. Like I said, I'm excited. Next week, the next few weeks, I'll be out after this week, and I'll be out at real fields because I love being out at real fields. But got to take one for the team the first few weeks because there's just too many games. Too many.
Hundreds in a day, let alone the whole weekend.
Someone to kind of just be like, hey, what's going on with like, you know, North Dakota State versus Incarnate Word, because I was covering that one the other day. Incarnate Word with Incarnate Word. I used to always call that World, and I'm like, wait, it's Word. And
Word.
Like, so yeah.
And they had a couple good wins.
Well, I mean, I was tracking that the other day. I was watching. I was trying to track it. So that's someone's got to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you all want to keep up with everything that we're doing and what's going on in college softball, you waited this long, we do have a discount code for you. So it is season 26 to get 25% off. That's for monthly or annual subscriptions. Either way, 25% off season 26. There's so much content that the team puts together. Rhiannon's a big part of that as well. And then we got digital stuff on site too. It's a lot that you can check out.
It's a great deal. I should probably check into that. Re-up my yearly subscription. I might cancel and re-up now. You know,
right? Now's the time.
Good. Yeah,
now's the time to do it.
It's a great time.
Well, thank you, Rhiannon. This was great. I'm so happy to have you on as the guest co-host, and just appreciate all that you do. We don't interact every single weekend, but we complement, like you said, the work that we do to do what we do for D1Softball. And I just appreciate you.
Yeah, well, the same to you. I cannot do what you do. And I was like, all the interviews and everything, I was like, this is gold. And, so I appreciate what you do. And again, anytime you need me as a co-host, you just let me know, because I love this. I love the podcast. I'm a frequent listener, and it's great to be on. So any week you need me, just call me. You know where to find me.
Oh, yeah. I got your number.
And it's still an 805 number.
I was going to say, nice.
That's right, baby. Ventura County love. Here we go.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Keep us updated on what all you want to hear about too, because there's plenty to talk about, and we will see you next week.